Hi there and welcome to lesson 2 on how to create a retro house record with me, Rob Webster at One Division Tutorials. In the first part we focused on the beats, and now we're moving on slightly to the chord pads, the Chicago stack sounds and the acid bass line. But before we do that, we're going to have to download a free synthesizer off the internet. So please refer to the notes that I have included in the pack for you to download this link from. Once you've downloaded those files, if you're not sure on how to add soft synths to Ableton, then just do the following. Extract the synth from the zip file and find the DLL file. Just cut and paste this into your VST plugin folder within your Ableton program files folder. Reboot Ableton and it should be in your VST rack plug on the left here. Okay. The Tal Electro is the free synth that we're going to use for the acid bassline sound, and that looks like that. Okay, so what we need to do is to cut the second half of the beats that we made earlier and just move those over here slightly, and then duplicate the first part of the beats that we created and copy and paste those over there so that we have a longer stretch. Because what we're going to do now is going to use some chords and notes that are going to stretch out over the length of those beats. Okay, so we've got the acid bass line with the Tal Electro. We also need to introduce a simpler. So go over to your instruments rack in Ableton and find simpler and drag that onto a MIDI channel, and then go into your samples and find the Chicago stack sound and put that into here. Raise the volume on it, 506 decibels. Over to your keyboard. And there's your Chicago stack sound. I've added a limiter on that just to give it a bit of a kick because it's quite a low sample, and an EQ with a lot of top end. Again, in the send section I've given it no reverb. I've panned it slightly to the left here, look, and I've given it to about 3 o'clock on the delay, so it gives it the echoey sound. Next, what we want to do is insert another simpler and then go back to your samples and in there find chord pad wave. Put that in, turn that right up to say 10 decibels, insert a EQ8 and take the bottom end out slightly, like so. Again over to here, and there's nothing on that at the moment, but we'll put some reverb on it. Back into the track, and then this is the chord pad sound. Okay, with the Tal Electro acid bassline, we want to make sure that we've got it installed and opened up, and you want to select the sound, which is up here, look, BS Classic Reso XS, and then hit the keys. Okay, but what I've done is I've gone into my MIDI effects rack over here and stuck an arpeggiator on. Okay, what we need to do now is configure some of the buttons on the soft synth. So I'm not using a MIDI controller that has loads of frequency cut-off buttons and faders. So what I'm going to do for the purposes of this tutorial is I'm going to put them down on here instead of MIDI mapping them. So what we need to do is to configure some of the buttons on here within Ableton. Now the way that we do this is we click configure down here on the track, and now what we need to do is to click on cutoff, reso and key. Make sure that your oscillator 1 is on pulse and oscillator 2 is on triangle. Now take configure off, mute the arpeggiator, hit the keys. You can actually just click that there and then use this pad here. Same with the resonance. So if we have some, what we need to do now is record the acid bass line in. So we're going to use 4 notes for this. We're going to use G, D, F and C, like so. I'm just going to hit record and put a metronome on again. double click on your recording, open it up. Can you see we're missing the first note there, but that's okay, we can put that in. Quantize those three. Take the metronome off, and if you see, and you go back to here, you'll see that it's recorded the automation, so it'll be like this. Okay, so that's the first part of our track done. Next we're going to record the Chicago stacks in exactly the same notes, which again just remind you is G, D, F and C. We're not going to put any automation on this, we're just going to record this straight. So stick a metronome on, record. Again, delete the excess bit, open that up, I don't know why it's doing that. It's also missing a note off here, but we can just put one back in. Select all, quantize, take the metronome off. There you go, it's coming together now. Next up is the chord pad. Again, same notes. So what you could do here, instead of replaying them in, is just copy, let's just change the colour on that so we can see what we're doing. Just take the acid bass line, copy that and paste that down there, solo it. It's too low, so what we need to do is just open it up. It's on G2 at the moment, so we need to take them up to G3. Okay, just do a quick save. Now let's have a look at the effects that we're putting on those three sounds. On the acid bass line, I've just stuck in a delay at about 3 o'clock. On the Chicago stacks, as I say, I've panned it slightly to the left, and again that's on 3 o'clock with delay. But with the chord pad, I've just put on a reverb at about just before 1 o'clock. Okay, so what we're going to do now to take the track forward and to give it some sort of balance is to add a high string, which is a PWM string. I've searched high and low on the internet for a free soft synth that has a really good PWM string attached to it, but I just can't seem to find one. The best one that I've heard that represents classic techno is a Pro 53, and you have to buy this from Native Instruments. If you haven't got that, don't worry, I've sampled the sounds from it and I've put them into the pack that you've received, and you'll see those. They're just called PWM strings, D5, G5, etc. But what we're going to do with them is we're going to put them into a sampler, and it's a little bit technical, but it's nothing difficult at all if you just follow what I'm doing, so that we get that authentic sort of techno high string sound. The way to do this is to go into your instruments and open up a sampler. Open that up, and what you will find is you will have down here this. So you click on zone, and what you do is then you go into your sounds, and as you can see we've got the PWM strings C5, D5, F5 and G5. Okay, so we start with G5 and we drag that over to here. to there, and you can see it will come up in the wave there. Raise it 6.5 dB in the volume there, and make sure that the root key down here is pushed up to G5. Then we'll go over here. You will have something like this. I've already done mine. What you will have is something like that, a long bar across. Get the end of it, push it all the way up to G5, and leave it there on G5 alone. Go over to your keyboard and play G5, and there you go. The next one to do would be D5. So same again, drag that over and then select the root to D5 here, raise your volume to 5.4, and then do the same again where you make sure the key is on D5. So grab each end, move it in, D5, and then F5, drag that in, volume to 6.5, root key F5, and then make sure that it's on F5 here on the keyboard screen here. And finally C. 6.1 for that, C5 root, and C5 over here on the keyboard. And then there you should have all 5 notes. And there you go. That's as good as you're going to get with a PWM string for free. Unless you know of one for free that's just as good, then let me know, because I would love to see it. Okay. Then what we do is we go back into our audio effects and open up reverb and put in a large hall reverb on here. Take the drive from there to 30. Stick an individual ping pong on here, 37 and 37 delay, and then an EQ. Raise the top end of the strings, just slightly lift up the bottom end, leave number 2 as where it is, so that we get that. So the sounds drag over with the nice reverb and the delay. There you go, that's your high string added. That just gives it that extra dynamic. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to insert another tal electro, and we're going to select back in the 80s, because that's where we're pretty much going. Okay, rename it 80s bass tal, and then hit the keys. So let's record a bass line in. That'll really fatten the sound up and give us everything we need. And there are our sounds, so grab them all, open them up so you can see the bass line that I've recorded. Quantize, and there's the notes. Take the metronome off, solo that. Let's just open up the synth. Play about with it really, just get it kind of thick but a little bit of resonance on the top. Okay, so that's it for lesson 2. I hope you enjoyed that and that your track is starting to take shape and sounding something similar to what I've done. I hope you've learnt something as well with regards to inputting samples into the sampler and using different VSTs and arpeggiators and things like that. And what we're going to do next in the next lesson is we're going to start arranging the track, adding a couple of sound effects to give the track a little bit of a character, and take it from there. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in lesson 3. Goodbye.